We have talked about Robin's summer best synergy in the previous video, so I think it's time for Aventurine Waveflair. Unlike Robin, whose role is a universal supporter and could work with almost any DPS, Aventurine is main carry, so I guess his synergies are not that broad. Today let's talk about his best teams while also recapping some of his kit. This way, it's also easier to determine whether he is a worthy unit in your account. Before we dive deep in, please hit the like and subscribe button. Now if you have done that, let's get this video started. Aventurine Waveflair is a primarily an Elation DPS whose entire playstyle revolves around building fervor. He gains fervor through his own abilities and whenever allies perform certain actions. His main source of damage comes from two versions of his Elation skill. The normal version deals AoE quantum damage followed by multiple bounce attacks, while the enhanced version consumes all accumulated fervor to unleash even more bounce attacks for significantly higher damage. His talent forms the core gameplay loop. Every time ally attacks, Aventurine gains fervor and punchline stacks. Once he reaches 10 fervor, he automatically triggers his normal Elation skill out of turn, and his next AHA instant becomes the enhanced version. In short, his rotation is simple: build fervor, trigger automatic skill, then spend everything on the enhanced attack for maximum damage. His skill grants additional fervor and punchline stacks while dealing AoE quantum damage, and both his skill and ultimate deal even more damage whenever Certified Banger is active. His ultimate also grants a large amount of fervor, increases his speed for 3 turns, and his technique lets him start battle with fervor and Certified Banger already active for a much faster setup. His traces further strengthen his kit. If he's the only Elation character on the team, every ally action grants extra speed, fervor, and Certified Banger, allowing him to trigger AHA instants much more often. If another Elation character is present, he instead gains a large Elation damage bonus. Although I personally think he performs better as the sole Elation unit on a follow-up focus team, he also gains a large amount of free crit damage through his traces, while every ally's basic attack, skill, ultimate, or follow-up attack provides additional fervor and more crit damage. Finally, his last trace heavily rewards building speed, granting bonus Elation damage once he reaches 160 speed, with the bonus continuing to increase as his speed gets even higher. That's why speed is one of the most valuable stats in Aventurine's entire kit. The first character we need to talk about is Morchenex Blade, and he immediately lands in the best follow-up team for Aventurine SP. Morchenex Blade has incredible synergy with Aventurine when he is the only Elation character on the team. Blade provides plenty of debuffs that Aventurine can fully capitalize on, while his frequent follow-up attacks and ultimate constantly trigger out-of-turn actions that help Aventurine build fervor much faster. Of course, we can't talk about Morchenex Blade without mentioning Ashfell, because together they form one of Aventurine's strongest team cores. This lineup is often called the Monoman, or the Mel team, since it features Aventurine Waveflair, Morchenex Blade, and Ashfell. We already know how well Blade and Ashfell work together, but Aventurine fits into that core surprisingly well. He benefits from almost every debuff Ashfell provides, and while both Ashfell and Blade do offer some fallout specific buff, most of their utility comes from universal effects like defense reduction and vulnerability, both of which Aventurine loves. Ashfell also performs a huge number of out-of-turn follow-up attacks, constantly feeding Aventurine more fervor. In return, Aventurine launches more out-of-turn attacks of his own, helping Ashfell gain more energy, which then allows Morchenex Blade to trigger even more follow-up attacks and ultimates. The entire team keeps feeding into each other's mechanics, creating incredibly smooth rotation. Honestly, I expect this to be Aventurine's Waveflair's strongest team when he releases. So both M-Blade and Ashfell, or should I say Ashblade, is a straight up 10 out of 10 for Aventurine. For the sustain slot, Hyacinth is easily the best choice. He already has fantastic synergy with Morchenex Blade, who really appreciates having a dedicated healer, while also contributing frequent attacks both during and outside her turn. Those extra actions generate even more stacks and energy for the whole team, making Hyacinth the best in slot sustain for this composition, so her score will be 9.5 out of 10. And we have Permancer as the next option if you don't have Hyacinth or somehow she ended up helping the other teams. Permancer over solid sustain. Surely Hyacinth is more pervert here since she can heal M-Blade to get consistent zone duration, but Permancer is not that bad at all. In fact, you can literally form all Mel team now. So my score for the synergy is 8.5 out of 10. Now let's talk about Preservation Aventurine as a sustain option alongside Aventurine Waveflair. The biggest issue comes when you are using Morchenex Blade. Blade absolutely wants a healer, so Preservation Aventurine immediately becomes difficult to fit into those teams. Without Blade, you could run something like Ashfell, Robin Samaredo, Preservation Aventurine, and Aventurine SP, which is perfectly playable. The old Aventurine also contributes frequent follow-up attacks that help Aventurine generate more fervor. The problem is that Permancer fits a very similar role while also giving his main target attack buff, making him slightly more valuable in many situations. Honestly, I would say the old Aventurine and Permancer are fairly interchangeable in teams like this. They are both solid options, just clearly weaker than the Morton X-Blade versions, so his score may be around 7 out of 10. Enough about the sustain, and we have Cypher now, because she's actually a much more interesting option. At her core, Cypher is a follow-up taker, so she naturally works well with Aventurine. She can store up some of the damage Aventurine deals to help shorten low cycle clears with her ultimate, while also providing valuable debuffs like defense reduction and vulnerability that Aventurine can fully benefit from, much like Ashfell and Morton X-Blade. The problem is that Cypher belongs to the Nihility path. If you build a team with Aventurine, Cypher, Morton X-Blade, and Hyacinth, it will definitely work, but Morton X-Blade loses one of his important self-buffs because he no longer remains the team's only Nihility character. That means you are giving up some of Blade's personal damage just to fit Cypher into the lineup. Because of that, I don't think Cypher reached the same level as Ashfell. Ashfell simply fits the overall team much better and creates stronger synergy across the board. Still, Cypher is absolutely a viable option. If you are missing either Ashfell or Morton X-Blade, you can comfortably slot her in, and she will still perform well. Just not quite as well as the premium core. Not the best or premium for Aven, but still works. So the score will be around 8 out of 10. Now let's move on to Tribi, because she opens up a much bigger discussion about Aventurine's place in the current meta. Right now, one of the strongest follow-up teams in the game is Morton X-Blade, Ashfell, Tribi, and Hyacinth. The reason this team works so well is that every character is constantly supporting the others. Tribi contributes frequent follow-up attacks that feed Ashfell's energy and Blade stacks, while both of them significantly boost Tribi's own damage in return. She also provides DDD, and if you have her E1, which many players do, her value becomes even higher. That's why I'm not completely convinced Aventurine Waveflair is a straight upgrade for this team. Based on the current beta, Aventurine's personal damage does not seem high enough to make up for everything you lose by replacing someone like E1 Tribi. That said, I still think Tribi is still a solid option. Aventurine can take advantage of nearly all the buffs she provides, and her frequent follow-up attack helps him build fervor much faster. Her score probably around 8.5 out of 10. She's a great replacement if you are missing either Morton X-Blade or Ashfell. Okay, then let's talk about Robin Summerado. Robin provides many of the same premium level buffs you would expect from someone like Morton X-Blade, while Aventurine's constant attack helps generate plenty of vibes for Robin in return. Their keys naturally complement each other. If you are missing either Ashfell or Morton X-Blade, Robin fits into that slot extremely well and can provide equally strong, if not even stronger, support for the team. Overall, she's easily one of Aventurine Waveflair's best teammates. Thanks to her universal buff, I could give the score 9 out of 10. Now let's take a break from the follow-up teams and look at how Aventurine Waveflair performs in Elation teams instead. Of course, the first character we have to mention is Yao Guang, who is easily Aventurine's best dedicated Elation support. Yao Guang gives him powerful Elation buffs that Aventurine can fully utilize, while also helping him trigger AHA instants more often, allowing him to use his enhanced Elation skills much more frequently. That said, there is one annoying issue with this pairing, and honestly, it's more of a flaw with Yao Guang's design than Aventurine's. Yao Guang's ultimate places a buff directly on her teammates, and that buff lasts for 3 turns. The problem is that both Super Wolf and Aventurine Waveflair are speed scaling DPS characters. Since they take so many turns, they will burn trigger Yao Guang's buff much faster than intended, meaning the uptime is not close to 100%. Super Wolf at least solved this problem with her E2, which freezes her buffs while she is in her enhanced state. Aventurine does not have anything like that, even if you invest heavily into him. So if we are talking about Aventurine's best Elation support, of course Yao Guang is the answer. So her score will be 8.5 out of 10, specific for his Elation teams. EMC is easily one of Aventurine's best teammates for Elation teams. EMC helps him generate the certified banger stacks he needs to unlock his bonus damage. On top of that, EMC grants Aventurine extra Elation skill whenever they are affected by EMC's ultimate. So for dedicated Elation teams, Yao Guang and EMC are definitely his 2 strongest partners. The downside, however, is that Aventurine simply does not generate fervor nearly as quickly in Elation teams compared to follow-up teams. Because of that, his gameplay feels noticeably slower and a bit clunkier. Personally, I would not recommend pulling him if your goal is to use him as your primary Elation DPS. It is something he can do, but it feels more like a secondary playstyle than his strongest role. So EMC is one of the best teammates for Aventurine, specifically in the Elation team. But ironically, Elation archetype itself is not really pushing Aventurine to its peak performance, so I guess this score will be 7.5 out of 10. Now let's move on to Hua Huo, who is easily the best sustain for Aventurine's Elation teams. If you happen to own Huohuo Yuan, things get even better since she provides a team-wide speed buff, and as we already know, Aventurine loves building as much speed as possible. Ironically, that also makes Yao Guang's ultimate expire even faster, which just adds another layer to the entire synergy between those two. It's definitely a messy interaction. Even without Iwan though, Huohuo is still the best sustain for the Elation teams. She supplies energy to Aventurine and the rest of the team, allowing everyone to cast their ultimates more often, while also providing reliable healing. So her score for Aventurine is 8 out of 10. Now let's talk about Jade, who's always interesting whenever a character takes a lot of actions. Since Aventurine constantly performs AoE attacks, he can feed Jade plenty of stacks, while Jade gives him extra 20 speed, which is obviously valuable for a speed scaling DPS. Unfortunately, Jade's buffs and personal damage just are not strong enough to push this pairing very far. In fact, it seems that there's a video showcasing this synergy in pure fiction. If I'm not mistaken, the team consists of Aventurine SP, Jade, Endblade, and a Sustain. If she is what you have and you want to pair her with Aventurine there, it's going to work well enough in a specific scenario, but I would not call it a top tier combination. So I would give Jade and Aventurine synergy a score of 7.5 out of 10. And then we have Welt. Welt is simply a strong general purpose debuffer, and we also have to mention the legendary E4 Welt. I know most players don't have E4, but even at lower investment, his debuffs are still valuable enough for Aventurine to benefit from them. The only drawback is that if you use Welt on an Elation team, you will usually have to play without a sustain. Since, for example, you play in Elation teams, you still want to fit EMC into the lineup so Aventurine can generate enough certified banger stacks to fully enable his enhanced skills and ultimate. Even so, Welt remains perfectly viable sustainless option for both follow-up and Elation compositions, so he is 8 out of 10 for Aventurine. As for the remaining teams though, I don't think they even have a decent synergy with Aventurine SP. For example, the action advanced supporters like Sparkle and Sunday. I don't think Sunday is a great partner for Aventurine. The main issue is that a large portion of Sunday's buffs are traditional damage buffs, and Aventurine's Elation damage does not benefit from them very well. Because of that, a lot of Sunday's value ends up being wasted. Sparkle performs a little better since her buffs are more universal and are not as heavily focused on standard damage amplification, making them easier for Elation DPS to benefit from. The problem though is how their playstyle clash. Aventurine Waveflair wants to build a lot of speed, while Sparkle works best when her carry stays at base speed, so her 50% AA effectively becomes a full action advance every turn. Since Aventurine does not fit that playstyle, the synergy just is not there. On top of that, neither Sunday nor Sparkle contribute frequent out-of-turn attacks, which means they don't help Aventurine generate fervor either. So overall, I would not recommend either of them for his teams, so the score for both these units is 6.5 out of 10 from me. The same for Superwolf and Avenetia. They have nothing to do to make Aventurine SP perform better, so in case you want to form Elation team, you might as well just use EMC, so their synergies is 6 out of 10. Finally, we have Topaz. Topaz is designed to buff follow-up attack damage, while Aventurine Kit is focused on Elation damage. Since he does not actually deal follow-up attack damage, Topaz's biggest buffs simply don't benefit him, so their synergy is 5 out of 10. So I think that's all for Aventurine's best team and character synergies. As usual, the score I gave here is purely based on my own personal opinion only. You could always disagree. So if you have found this video helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button, turn on notification as well so you won't be missing out on any of my Star Rail content. I will see you guys on my next one. Bye bye!